Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. Uh, how's it going? Had a long week. Not a bad week. I would say it was good. Worked. Pretty much all I did. Food corner was pretty uneventful. I did go to Jupiter Donuts today though. And they had turnovers on display, and I'm a sucker for those. You know that meme about like who's keeping Arby's in business? I'm definitely one of those people because I love getting their turnovers, and they got Reuben sandwiches right now. That's a tangent, but the turnover was good. I also got a blueberry donut, but I didn't think about it, and I should have ordered a blueberry cake donut. That's usually what I want, but they had a blueberry with like a blueberry ice donut, and I was like, okay, this should be fine, and it was great. Uh, what else did I get? A big cinnamon roll, so not too bad. Um, Other than that, just like I said, working, living la vida loca, and trying to find some news for you guys. This is gonna be another Ukraine episode, so there's that. I like to try to isolate it so that way it's kind of like all the war stuff I picked up in the week in kind of one episode, and then we go from there throughout the rest of the weekend or what have you. But let's see. The first story I kind of got. Well, I guess there's a little bit of preface, but I kind of might trickleate it throughout. Zelensky's kind of been on a little bit of a digital world tour, if you will. He's been like talking, doing like speeches in front of Congress. Here also talking to like I believe what is the Parliament or Common House. I don't know what they're calling it in the UK. I'd be forgetting. He also talked to like the same in Germany, the same kind of body in Germany. And he also was like kind of slick with it. He kind of dropped lines accordingly. Like with us, he was talking, he related a lot of things to like 9/11, Pearl Harbor. For Germany, he talked about like tearing down the wall, like all this kind of stuff, like trying to make it like stir emotions, I believe. And he also reiterated like the whole close the sky, no fly zone stuff. Just wanting to ask for more support. And like no matter how kind of hot he got or what have you, like everyone really like stood up and cheered. Had nice things to say. Rooting for him. So I mean, he is getting aid still. That's still incoming and everything. But there's definitely still limits. Excuse me. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other preface stuff I want to like kind of mention before I get into the articles that I know. Let's just get into it. From BBC, Ukraine conflict. Putin lays out his demands in Turkish phone call. So apparently Turkey is a part of NATO, but they're kind of like their own agent. Like they kind of do what they want a little bit, and they kind of align with NATO in the sense of like ideals in a way, but not really. And it just kind of is what it is. I've learned a little bit about NATO over the past week, and it's a lot. But essentially, Turkey is kind of like saying, "Hey, like we'll take the calls. We'll talk to Putin. He's our guy. Like, who's the name of the president? Here we go, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So he's kind of been playing a little bit of go between Putin and powers that be. So essentially, there was kind of like a list of demands. I shouldn't say kind of. I feel like these are hard demands by Putin that he wants. But I mean, it is kind of split in terms of like severity or like how easy is it going to be able to like be accomplished for Ukraine to be like, hey, can we capitulate and be okay with this or that? One of the things was that they can't join NATO. Zelensky has kind of indicated that he's aware, like he knows, like that's pretty much a forlorn fact that it's not going to happen. But also he pushed again the denazification thing. He's like, that's got to be, in writing in here. Also, he needs to make sure that Russian languages are preserved, which I guess is kind of a part of his whole genocide angle spiel from Putin. And a lot of people are saying, like, oh, that's a big slap in the face. Zelensky is Jewish. And so for him to say, oh, yes, my country has Nazis in it and we're going to do what we can to, like, get rid of all Nazis. It's one of those things that is like a slap in the face, or, it's a little bit extra, a little bit laying it on thick. But as I kind of stated before, not that this is something that goes to denote from supporting Ukraine or what have you, but yes, there are Nazis in Ukraine. Just like there are Nazis in Russia, there are sadly still Nazis in Germany, and there are weird, like, what is it, red suspender, head ass, neo-Nazis here in America. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, there are racists everywhere still, sadly. You just couldn't, like, beat racism. But at the same time, it's not an excuse for war. Also, the Crimea situation is still, kind of hard tack to this. More or less in writing now. It's like, hey, Crimea is officially annexed. It's not a part of Ukraine. As well as, like, regions like Donbass, things like that. They might be, like, independent regions, so not necessarily Russian, but not Ukrainian. Also, they want a de-armament, which I think is kind of played down here, because, I mean, at least in this article, just because that's pretty much saying that they don't want Ukraine to be able to fight against them. They want them to not have to worry about their defenses, I guess, more or less what they were trying to say. And that is a scary thing, because naturally they've gotten all this armament, all this stuff that's keeping them in this fight right now, which also I think it was another thing I was thinking about. In terms of how is Russia progressing, they haven't really done much in terms of, like, pushing things. They haven't taken any other city. Things are still kind of in play that are in play. Like, Kiev is still a thing. It's not Russia's. It's not controlled by Russia, but it's still under siege. Mariupol, which we'll be getting to later, has been bombed a lot. Also, the bombing has kind of been extended across Ukraine. So now it's like people are really kind of thinking, well, this is really focused in the east, and if you just get to the west, you're okay. But there have been bombings as far as, like, Lviv, which, if you look on Ukraine on a map, if you look at Ukraine on a map, you can kind of say, okay, that's, like, near Poland, and you're supposed to be a lot safer. But there's been bombings near there to kind of show, hey, look, we are willing to hit wherever there's military activity against us, is more or less what Russia is saying. So, it's a big list of demands. Also, Putin has said, I want to meet with Zelensky one-on-one, a little mano-a-mano situation, which Zelensky wants as well. But also there's a preface that the peace talks and everything with, like, that are going on in Belarus between Russian and Ukrainian, ambassadors, what have you, that's still being worked out. And there's also other talks going on in other places. So, they're still trying to hammer out that. Like we've said before, it's hard enough to handle and open up a humanitarian corridor for people. So, it's also scary too, and this is a little bit of speculation from me, is Russia doing this to kind of stall? Like, are they saying, like, hey, yeah, this is what we want, we're open to this, and then you talk, but then next thing you know, this is dragged out now for a month or two, people are still not getting food, civilians are still getting bombed. So, it's a situation at hand that's really nasty. Also, I think as well, Putin's going to want other things, because the sanctions right now are so harsh, and if you don't get some guarantee that there's going to be some levity, that there's going to be some easement of that, then why would you let off the gas pedal, So, also, to follow up on this bit, Putin held a little bit of a rally, which was kind of interesting. Also, I'm just gonna say it, Putin's got drip. I feel like it's kind of understated. People talk and they're calling him a madman. They're calling him a bad man. I would definitely say he is a bad man. He's not a good guy in this story, that's for sure. He's definitely the villain. But he is dressing like a Bond villain. Okay? And I mean and this is, and I've been, seeing some documentaries and stuff like that. I mean, he's kind of had this like demeanor, this swagger the whole time. So I mean, I'm giving him that. He came out in this like, I don't know what you call it. It felt like a prep rally. It felt like something I would see it as a kid going to school, and it was just like, to get you hype. But this is for Russia. It had a big turnout. I believe like over 10,000 people came out in support, chanting Russia, Russia, Russia. I got this from Reuters, by the way. But yeah, let's see. It's in Moscow Stadium, Lesniki Stadium. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, he came out with a turtleneck and like I think it's a down jacket. Looking kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie to you there. For an autocrat, he's really flexing right now. But I mean, essentially, just kind of. Also, he's 69, which it's the nice number. Besides the no hairline, I mean, he's looking pretty healthy. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it, dude. I've seen some articles are like, is he ill? I'm like, I don't think he's ill. I don't know. Maybe, gosh, I don't know. But anyway, enough about that. Like I said, it was really like trying to pump up the situation, saying, hey, the military operation is going well. He's pushing for what slogans were saying, a world without Nazism, which wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be swell? But yeah, I mean, essentially, it was really flowered. There was like a band that played. Let's see what else happened. There was a cutaway, like a little bit what they call the glitch. I haven't heard any details about what happened, like what was the reason. Naturally my brain goes, oh, someone tried to hack the thing or whatever. But it wasn't said, but they like had a cutaway. There was like some kind of music, kind of like throwback reel playing, and then they went back to the speech. Let's see, there was a poet that talked. Let's see, what was the name of the poet? Fyodor Tuchchev, whose verses warned Russians that they would always be considered slaves of the Enlightenment by Europeans. That was read out loud. So I mean, that's some intense reading. But yeah, I mean, interesting kind of event that kind of transpired. And I think too, where people get upset seeing this when they see Russians being supportive, but you just have to understand that like we have the same kind of situation that happens here in America. We would get whipped up about going to war in Afghanistan or whatever we were doing, or even too like the lack of like ire that we might have over situations that were happening. Like I learned about a lot of things that happened during the Obama administration after the fact, because it was made so light by the press and it was made so light by the people around me at the time that it just was like, oh, okay, everything's smooth sailing. Everything's going well. It's like we're living in the 90s. But no, things were not good in the hood, especially if you were in Yemen. But yeah, so I mean, just something I wanted to cover there. A little bit of a break in the Ukraine stuff, staying in Russia. There's an update on the Brittany Grenier situation. I got this from The Independent, the title. Brittany Grenier's family say she's okay, but not good, as WNBA pushes privately for her release from Russia. So essentially, her arrest or investigation has been extended to May 19th. So it's definitely looking like she's going to be in prison with, I believe they also describe in The Independent how the prison is. So she's going to be in prison for 2 months. Also with 2 other people. So, I mean, if you see, the Brittany Grenier, I posted a picture before in previous episodes, but she's very tall, very, very tall, woman. And for someone like that to be in a cramped situation with two other people, that's crazy. Like the diameters that they go through, it just more or less describes. Like I'm very sure that she can just reach across and like have no problems, touching end to end of this whole cell. But essentially, she hasn't had too much contact. I believe even like the U.S. is like pushing to get more contact with Moscow and everything, and there's just kind of been a little bit of static or not too much correspondence back, but I think they are pushing for it. Hopefully, there will be more updates. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shitty situation. It sucks too that, Russia kind of sat on it, and then like we heard about it, via an Instagram post from her wife. So the situation is just like really dragged. I've also seen like on Facebook and other media, like, why aren't people talking about Brittany Grenier? Why aren't like the press talking about it? And I mean, I think that's kind of like one of those things where sadly it's obvious why they aren't. But at the same time, it is out there to find. You just have to look at it. You have to look it up. You have to go find it. That's the beauty of the internet and the times that we live in. But yeah, so that was also a thing. Also, I'm gonna shout out to independent ads. It reminded me of the thing I was gonna definitely miss, and I don't have a source for it. But Russia did go on to actually ban us back, do some sanctions back. They listed a few people off the top of the dome: Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden. They just threw those up there. I think there were several others, and essentially, like, they can't do any business in Russia, and they can't go to Russia. Also, Jen Psaki, who I'm gonna be honest, have a little crush on. That's my little liberal crush. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, they're banned. They're banned from Russia. They didn't take it too hard though. But yeah, that's definitely some little bit of extra. Some more sad news from Ukraine. Some journalists and a cameraman were killed doing some stuff, like doing some, obviously, filming, recording. The first I wanted to talk about was Brent Renaud. He passed away, I believe, in Irpin. And I don't have too much details, and obviously they aren't like super great. But he was shot and killed. He was, I believe, doing a documentary. He had like other credentials from like the Times and stuff like that because he's worked with them. But I don't know if he was like independently working or just doing something for another group that hasn't come out yet. But that was sad to find out about. And I think it's one of those things where you hear that and it's something that reminds you that this is arcing up. It's really bad, and it's home. Like, it hits home. These are Americans. These are people who, maybe walked your same street or lived in the same state. Obviously, we're all countrymen, that kind of thing. Two others who were killed was a veteran cameraman and a Ukrainian journalist. Let's see. Pierre Zakruski, who was 55 years old. And then Oleksandra Sasha Kuvisnova, who was 24. They were shot, I believe, yes. So that is sad. They worked for Fox News. So essentially, I guess they had to verify everything and because initially it was just the cameraman who was reported. But I totally get how these situations kind of happen. You hear a thing and you have to confirm it, and you confirm it, and as it's confirmed, you put it out potentially because it's really important news, and this all moves fast. So and then they updated it later. But they were shot, and I want to say the line of duty. I don't know if that's the wrong words to say, but I mean, obviously they were out with soldiers, doing their job, showing us images that help give us perspective. I know there's some times where I can be really kind of almost upset with how journalism, how press can kind of manufacture, shape a story, how you can also then there's people on the ground suffering, doing a thing, and you're just watching with like a camera, with a microphone in hand, what have you, and these people are living in a moment and you really aren't doing anything but just spectating. But the reason they do that is so that people like me, people like you, can get news so that they can understand what's happening in a place far, far away and get some understanding. And that means a lot. In the situation with Russia, it sucks that it's being censored so much, and that's the thing that sucks. With Russia, it sucks because they're doing some imperialist shit, but they're also right to say that we're doing imperialist shit. We're guilty of the same kind of crimes. You can have this conversation across the board with all kinds of superpowers and all that shit. But the nice thing about America is that we at least have the freedom to speak. We have the freedom of news, and that if we do the work, we can find it, we can decipher it. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I know I don't say maybe as much pro-American shit as I should, but I do love where I live. I do love that I have the opportunity to freely and easily, speak what I believe in, and that's nice. But condolences to them, flowers to them, and some other news in Ukraine. A kidnapped Ukrainian mayor was freed in a special operation. Officials say, I got this from ABC News, and I'm also gonna. Also, sorry about any potential excess noise. I'm filming this in a little apartment. So, it's a Saturday. People like to jam. I get that. Ooh, eat. Trying to give you a little bit of a drink ASMR here a little bit. I got my beer. I got a little coffee too I made. So, we're chilling. We're chilling. Oh, man. So, this is, I didn't cover this, but it's something that I kind of happened and transpired throughout the week. But there was a kidnapping, and I believe this happened in another Ukrainian city as well. But the Russians have been occupying this town. This is Melitopol. And the mayor was essentially told, hey, you have to comply with us. You have to do what we tell you to do, set these rules. Things are going to go well. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine. He was trying to be as compliant as possible, but also he wasn't going to comply with everything, So he was more or less, they came to him and said, all right, we're taking you out of the situation. I think they actually charged him with things. And there's actually on the BBC, they actually interview him, which was a really good interview because he just got to explain the situation. And he said they didn't hurt him. They didn't interrogate him in a way that was cruel or vicious or anything like that. But he explained they weren't polite, and what he meant by that was he's they sat me in a room with I think he said 3-4 other guards, guns, and sometimes they were nice, sometimes they were very direct, they were very rude. And I just sat there and I think he said he got some food and water, stuff like that, but he was just there. He was stuck. They also put in a pro-Russian mayor. Ooh, excuse me. Galina Danielchenko. I got that source from the Insider, but she was essentially installed and more or less was telling them hey, this is your new reality now. It was weird COVID talk, which is also so strange where it just reminds me how Western fake news, COVID talk, all of it is retrended and rebranded across the world. But it's this is the new normal. You got to get used to it. And this is where we are now. And, but he was freed, and they kind of, in the BBC interview, they asked him well, what do you think about this lady? She's well, I mean, she wasn't elected. Like, she just wasn't an elected official. She wasn't even in the running when we had the elections. So, like, and he just kind of left it at that. Like, so I imagine he's going to try to get a spot back or what have you. I don't know. It might be like she's just kind of here until they leave. But definitely a spooky situation. When I heard about that, I was like, oh man, they're making moves. Because like a lot of, like, I even heard in one of the podcasts I listened to, they're like, oh yeah, they're definitely never going to do something like that. Like, they're not going to like just replace the government and, and then try to like work it that way. And then that's literally what happened for a week. So I was kind of like, well, I don't know. This is a little crazy. But, I mean, this is all still a toss up. To an extent, I think the Kremlin and everyone, Putin, they're trying to throw things at a wall here. They're using their own tactics that worked in other places, which is where I'm kind of end off here with the Mariupol theater bombing. It's a sad situation. I'm glad that more people weren't hurt, but I mean, still there's this loss of life every day in these kind of situations and these kind of bombings. And also it's sad too, because these are landmarks that are being bombed. And it just shows the wanton disregard here. And people keep talking war crime, war crime, war crime, war crime. And they are. These are atrocities that are happening every day now. But it's just sad that, like, these people, they put on this theater, hey, kids, like, if you see the layout of the city from, like, the sky, from, like, a satellite, which is what the kind of technology they would be using to do these kind of bombings. It's like, hey, they put in Russian, there's children. You can see it on both sides of the theater. Essentially, it was bombed for days, like they were shelling for days. Luckily, I guess how it was built, a lot of people, I believe, were able to survive and be okay. But still, it's just a situation of getting aid, support, and getting any of that is still hard because, like I said, the corridor situation is just nasty. It's still not happening. It might open for a little bit. There might be a little bit of safety. Luckily, I think there was like a convoy of 2,000 people. Also, I got this from BBC as well. There's a convoy of about 2,000 people who were able to kind of get out before the main round of bombings like really started rolling. So that's good. But I mean, just some really nasty shit. It's like a medieval style of warfare, but it's worse because there's more people. Like, it's not some city fortress style old hovel ass area village. This is like a big city. So I mean, it's gross. It's wild shit. Hopefully, I mean, I do know the news I got. It's like I got the pool. But hopefully the rest of the stories will be cool, different, diverse. Like I said, we're definitely going to take a break from Ukraine, obviously, for the rest of the weekend. Hopefully you guys have a good one. Let's see. It's time for me to do some shilling. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you want to support the podcast, I'd appreciate it. $5 gets you in the Newsy Club. Put you in the Discord real quick. We can talk. We can chat. But Freeway. Oh, also you get a little shout out too. I can talk about what you want to talk about on this podcast. I can say your name if you want. Shout out to Queen Newsy, Stephanie M. You're the greatest. Love ya. Let's see though. Other ways you can reach me, beat me. Isaiah News 1 at gmail.com. Isaiah News 1 is also the Facebook. And then Isaiah News is the Instagram, and Isaiah_News is the Twitter. I'm out here. I'm social. Get at me. Other than that, though, be easy, keep it breezy, and hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. Love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.